Hello, America, and welcome to another episode of the Ultra MK podcast, where together we are reversing the narrative. And on today's show, we have a new guest joining with us, and we're going to talk about apricot seeds. You might be thinking, what on earth does apricot seeds have anything to do with this podcast? Well, I have the right man here to explain all that they are worth and worth to all of humanity. And he's going to break down certain terms and things that you may not even heard before. I'm still a student understanding what God's creation of the apricot seed really is. And this is going to be a great episode. So let me bring on my next guest, John Richardson.
That is our obligation, to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face.
How are you, John?
Oh, Matt, I'm great. It's great to see you. I know it's been a little bit of time since we've seen each other, but we had such a great interaction that I'm happy to be here and tell the story to your audience and let them know that the word we're going to use today, is schmancer, or the C word, but people know what we're talking about. And I just want to do the caveat up front for any platforms that are listening that we are not doctors. We're not giving medical advice. Everything I'm talking about today is opinion, and anybody should seek medical advice for anything that they're dealing with. So we just want to talk about the history and facts, and then let people decide from that whether this is something they need to look more into.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Couldn't said it better myself. I would like to also give this information to my audience because I think it's really good to kind of give them your background here, John. Let me go ahead and I'm going to bring up some more information here. So if I could just read that you are the founder and chief visionary officer of Operation World Without Cancer, Schmancer, and founder of Richardson Nutritional Center, and you are the son of Dr. John A. Richardson, medical doctor from California, and who is a physician who, in the 1970s, was raided, arrested, and ultimately stripped of his medical license for offering a natural schmancer therapy known as Laetrile or vitamin B17 to more than 6,000 patients. And what began as a fight for his patients' right to choose became the battle against government overreach, media smear campaigns, and the systematic suppression of natural healing alternatives. Today, you carry that mission forward, sharing an untold history, championing medical freedom, and shining a light on the many hidden natural treatments that offer hope in the fight against the C word. Your goal is to continue to help make a world without the C word, not just a dream, but a reality. So, John, that is a beautiful mission statement, and I really wanted to share that with the audience today because meeting you, geez, it feels like a couple of years ago now. We were originally drawn to you, I think, because we had saw you at Clay Clark Reawaken America, one of the last ones that Clay Clark put together over in North Carolina, I believe, and that's where myself and Pastor Dave Bryan of the Church of Glad Tidings, Charlita Bassett, who ran for U.S. Senate here in California, also involved in the fight against child trafficking. We all ran into you in the airport, dude, and I thought that was just a beautiful thing that we had happen, a divine appointment. So
Yeah, it was
I
funny because
sometimes think about that.
yeah, we were going to two separate locations. You guys were going to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and I was going to Phoenix area. But we ended up on the same connecting flight. And Pastor Dave and I and you and Charlita, and I believe there was another pastor's wife that was there as well, all hit it off and got to tell stories and really developed a soul bond. And so, yeah, we've been working together to try to continue this message, both of that we have the answer to the C word, and we have the answers to the child trafficking epidemic. And so all of us been working towards, furthering those goals and both of those things, which are two of God's main missions, I believe, is making us disease free. He gave us in Genesis 1:29, he told us to eat the seeds for thy food. And there's so many Bible verses about that. And we've come to a society that doesn't eat the seeds anymore. Matter of fact, we take all the seeds out. And he's also, obviously, if we're not taking care of the children, then we're doing something very wrong. So yeah, there was a very heartfelt introduction that we had, and it's so great to continue it on now and to tell the story. Like I said, continue to tell the story.
Yeah. And it was cool because that was back when like Southwest Airlines let you pick your own seat. And then Pastor Dave taps on my shoulder. He's like, "Hey, can you get me a seat next to him? Like, I really want to sit with him on this flight." And that's when you guys had bonded. And I know Pastor Dave is pursuing his mission with his church to get a ministry going called Light of Life Ministry, which I think is going to be a beautiful thing that basically brings in all of the, like you were saying, like all of the clues that God's word has in scripture to life, with modalities and treatments and nutrition that this global cabal has been suppressing us from gaining knowledge and access to. And I think that's the platform for this first episode with you today, because if you start, talking about our health and wellness as human beings here on the planet, and then you also talk about, rescuing children out of slavery and oppression, if you connect enough dots, it leads up to the same top of the snake of the pyramid, right? And so
Absolutely.
obviously
Absolutely.
your main background is your passion, and the book you're writing, Operation World Without the C Word, and your organization, the RNC, Richardson Nutrition Center organization. That is your focus, but I know that your network is much more broader than that, and it is a true truth network, and connecting we the people into something much greater. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so I can go back to the verses. I want to go ahead and quote the two Bible verses that we kind of run our company by. Matter of fact, it's etched in the mirror in our front lobby. And that is, and God's in Genesis 1:11. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth." And it was so. And then it follows up in Genesis 1:29. "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with the seed in its fruit. Ye shall have them for food." And the interesting thing, Matt, is God said you should have these seeds for food. But if you look at our grocery store now, you can't find a seeded grape or a seeded apple or seeded watermelon. It's all seedless. So these are all man-made, bastardizations of what God said. And so, and oddly enough, this compound that we talk about, known as B17, is found primarily in seeds. It's found in over 1,200 different foods, including, lima beans and millet and barley and sorghum molasses. But it's found primarily in the seeds of stone fruits like apricots, peaches, plums, apples. Apple's not a stone fruit, but that's where this compound called amygdalin is found. And that's what my dad learned about back in the late 60s, early 70s, when he was a doctor who graduated from the University of Rochester Medical School. He had years of education, 8 years of education. And he said in his entire education, even after he did his undergraduate or postgraduate work at Mary Jean Bassett Hospital in New York City, his entire education on nutrition was about a 7-day course. And that's my dad, Dr. Richardson, a 7-day course, or excuse me, it was a 5-day, 1-week course. He said on Friday they took the half the day off about nutrition. That was his entire education. But when he got into his medical practice, he found that very quickly that when he was sending people off to the oncology department that developed cancer, that he would never see them again. They would do chemo, radiation, and surgery, and he would never see them again.
Wow. Yeah, that's tragic, and I do want to give your father a lot of credit for that time because I've understood that around the early 1900s, the Rockefeller medical system basically rolled out with, certain key players that really wanted to make a centralized medical system instead of, naturopath, chiropractic, nutrition, spread out, medical practices throughout the country. They wanted it to be centralized and then for certain drugs to be petroleum based. So for a man in the, mid to late 60s into the 70s to discover something that probably folks knew 100 years prior, it was pretty profound, right?
Yeah, well, it was actually discovered in Russia in the 1840s, like you said, but doctors in the United States in the 1920s, Dr. Ernst Krebs Sr. was using it. He's an MD. He was using it on his patients and finding tremendous results. He was quoting that he was getting 100% results with people that didn't first do chemo, radiation, and surgery. And of course, the system went against him. And we don't have time today to talk about the Flexner report, which changed all the natural medicine that was going on in the United States that was working into everything had to be petroleum based and based on, this new science of pharmaceuticals. Well, of course, that's all backed by the same people that backed the Federal Reserve, the Carnegies and Rockefellers and things like that. So, like you said, if you go to all the way to the top of the pyramid, it's these same individuals controlling, the money, the financial system, the medical system, and even the child trafficking system is all can be related and brought back to these the same evil people at the top. And it's not one specific religion, race, creed. It's just the most powerful people. And it really is a battle between good and evil. And so we're not going to today get into all that. We could, but a lot of times it gets lost in the message. We really want to talk about that. We do have the answer.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that. If you want to just, I want to give your father more credit. And how did he even discover this substance? The B17, amygdalin, laetrile. How did he stumble on it? Can you tell us more about that story?
Yeah. Well, he originally he had an office manager named Ralph Bowman that kind of introduced him to the subject in the late 60s. And Dad got information and data on it. And he was reading on it. But he also saw that doctors were being, it was being frowned upon by the AMA and the medical establishment. So he was interested and he was reading about it, but kind of a twist of fate caused him to really try it. And that was when our family cat, our beloved family cat Spooky, developed a large tumor on the side of its neck. And my dad took it to the vet. And back in late 1960s, early 70s, the vet said, well, we can probably make your cat live another 6 months, but we're going to have to do, surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. And the bill is going to be $2,000 or more. Now, $2,000
Wow.
for a pet today is a lot, but if you can imagine in the 1960s or early 70s, that my dad thought $10,000 was all the money he'd ever need. That's his life insurance policy was $10,000. He thought that'll take care of my family forever. So you can imagine how my dad did, even though he was a successful medical doctor, didn't want to spend $2,000 on the family cat. So he took the opportunity to go over to San Francisco to meet with Ernst Krebs Jr., who was Dr. Krebs Sr., the MD's son, who became a biochemist and who was purifying amygdalin, and he was calling it laetrile. That was kind of his trademark name. He wanted to patent it, but Dad found out about the protocol, what he was using in his. He had a kind of a hush-hush clinic in San Francisco that he was seeing tremendous results by using amygdalin or B17 that he called laetrile, the pancreatic enzymes that we call the proenzymes, which are trypsin, chymotrypsin, and other enzymes that are produced by the pancreas, and B15, which is another substance found in brown rice and seeds. It was something that when purified, Muhammad Ali actually used it to win a boxing title because it helped B15, which is along the same line. Pangamic acid helps the blood carry more oxygen. It helps oxygenate the muscle tissue. So cancer hates the C word, hates oxygen. So these three compounds together are what Dr. Krebs was using, and what we've now called the Richardson method, because the dad used this on the cat, and the tumor on the cat's neck shrunk and basically fell off, and the cat lived the fur, its fur came back, it had energy, it would continue to eat well, and it miraculously the cancer, because of the support to the immune system, was able to go away. Now, we don't ever say the CURE word, which is a bad word. We say control, because the C word, for all of the audience to hear it, is not something that can ever be cured. It can never be cured. There's not going to ever be a cure for cancer, even though we throw that word around. It's a control, just like when you're drinking water. That's a control for thirst. If you stop drinking water, you're going to die of thirst. If you drink water, you can get rid of the symptoms of thirst. That's exactly what it is with scurvy and these other things. So my dad quickly found that if people had enough B17, B15, and these enzymes, their body's immune system could help them reverse the scourge of the C word. Now, many people came to him after doing lots of chemo and radiation surgery and did not fully recover, but they still had some such tremendous things like pain relief, bringing their appetite back, a zest for life. The stench of dying skin would go away, or dying flesh would go away. I'm sorry to say it that way. So that's what he saw with this cat. And again, as fate would have it, that's our family cat. My dad's favorite nurse, Charlotte, had a sister, Mildred, who had tumors all over her arm. And she was at Kaiser Hospital in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they said the doctors told her she had cancer spread throughout her arm. It had spread to different organs in her body. But they had recommended that she immediately get her arm amputated and go into chemo and radiation. Well, initially, she didn't want to remove her arm. She just decided she would do one course of chemo and see how it worked. Well, she got so sick and so ill, she was throwing up and lost patches of hair. And she told her sister about this. And she said, I don't want to do this. I'd rather die of the effects of the cancer than go through this chemotherapy and remove my arm. So she begged her sister to talk to my dad to say, hey, I know this is risky for your medical license and risky for your practice, but can you please, my sister will sign whatever. Can you please use this cat tested therapy on my sister Mildred? Well, after prayerful thought and my dad thinking about it and looking into it, he felt that he couldn't go against his Hippocratic oath, that he had to help Mildred with what she wanted. You know, he believed in patients' rights and advocated for patients to choose. And so he felt he kind of owed it to his Hippocratic oath and to God to treat Mildred. Well, he did. He began treating her with the Laetrile again, the enzymes and the B15 and other things. We can talk about the whole protocol, but Mildred reacted miraculously. Not only did her tumors shrink and in some cases go away, she when she went back to Kaiser a couple months later, they had been bugging her about getting her in to do the surgery on her arm and removing the arm. They had been calling her and bugging her, but she came back and they did all the testing and checked her out, and they were floored that she was cancer free. Now, again, nothing was cured. Her body had controlled the cancer that she had in her system, and she continued on the therapy. But the doctors were so astounded. They asked her, what did she do? And her having fear, she didn't want to tell them what she did. She just said, I've been eating well and exercising and praying, and I've been doing all these things. She didn't want to tell them about what my dad had done for fear of him getting in trouble. But they said, okay, well, that's all great, but we think we should still remove your arm because we've seen this so many times when the cancer goes away, we do the surgery, the chemo, the radiation, cancer goes away, it always comes back. So we want to remove your arm anyway. And she said, well, would you have said that if I'd come to you for the first time? And of course they said, no, we wouldn't, because you look cancer free, but we know it will come back. Well, it never came back because Mildred stayed on the Richardson protocol, the Richardson method. And years later saw my dad at a wedding, and she ran up to him with tears in her eyes and grabbed his hands with both of her hands. And they both realized what a poignant moment it was. And my dad realized how this initial test run with Mildred changed his life completely. He had completely changed his thoughts about what the C word is and how we can get rid of it, and how nobody should die of the C word. The body can fight it off, and it's nothing more than a deficiency disease. And this has been proven over and over again. He treated over 6,000 patients, some of which are still alive to this day, Matt, 50 years later.
Wow.
I'm doing podcasts, and this woman reached out to me. I did about 350 podcasts in the last 2 years. And this woman reached out to me and said, John, I saw you on a friend told me that you're on this podcast. She shared it with me. And I want to tell you, I'm the little girl on page 242 of your dad's book. I'm the little girl who was 12 years old that had leukemia and was told they had done everything they could do for me at Loyola University. And every other kid that was there when I had leukemia had, after a year of treatment from chemo radiation, had passed away. I was the only one that was still surviving. They wanted me to go to another year of chemo radiation, even though they said it probably wasn't going to do any good. And so she and her parents decided to seek out a clinic that was doing this metabolic therapy we call the Richardson method for simplicity. And she came out to my dad's clinic, was treated by him. He met with her. They met with the parents, and she actually befriended our family so much, she reversed to leukemia, and she was invited to my oldest sister's wedding to come to the wedding. And she told this story in a text message. And she said, I'm now a 65-year-old woman with 3 or 4 grandchildren, 2 children, all of which would not have been alive had I not met your father and come out there. And later, I did an interview just like this of her, and she told me that after my dad had passed in 1988, in the early 2000s, she developed breast cancer. She had thought that she didn't need to continue the B17 and enzymes, so she developed breast cancer. And she didn't know, she couldn't reach my dad. She didn't know how to reach into her family because my dad had passed away. And she reached out and found a place to get Laetrile again, IV Laetrile, and started injecting herself, and got her breast cancer under control with no surgery. Her family thought she was crazy. She didn't do surgery. She didn't do chemo radiation, and she reversed her breast cancer twice since 2000. And when we talked, I said, do you now realize you need to continue taking B17 as part of your diet? Because it's something that actually, the mechanics of it actually kills the C word cell before it ever metastasizes. So that's how B17 works. And I'm happy to explain that. But that's how it all started, Matt. And the years of my dad's trials and tribulations, he was sued 5 times. He was arrested a couple times, including on the way in to speak to a medical board in Sacramento. He was arrested on the way in. He was going to be speaking to this board. They took away his license eventually. And then eventually he passed away early because they allowed air to get into his blood during open heart surgery, and he passed away in 1988. By that time, other doctors had picked it up. Some other doctors had championed it, like Dr. Harold Manor at Loyola University, who proved that breast cancer could be controlled with B17, Laetrile, enzymes, and vitamin A. And he wrote a book called The Death of Cancer. And this book, it was written by Harold Manor at Loyola University. He had 50 published studies. He had 7 textbooks, and he studied Laetrile for 5 years and said, breast cancer should be no more. Well, you know what happened to Harold Manor. You don't. You can guess. He was fired from Loyola University, left penniless, and had to move to Mexico, just like my dad, to continue practicing Laetrile therapy. And unfortunately, Harold Manor died of a heart attack the same month and the same year that my dad died of his air embolism. So another doctor, Dr. Dean Burke, who was the head of the National Cancer Institute, who said that Laetrile was the most effective treatment that ever tested at the National Cancer Institute, also died within a couple months of my dad and Dr. Harold Manor. So by the end of the 80s, there were so many stories that they were covering up what Laetrile and B17 could do that by that time it kind of went out of fashion. It kind of went underground, and doctors that were using it continue to use it into the 2000s, even to today. But we've found ways in the current system to not offer it as a treatment or cure for any disease, but offer it as an adjunctive therapy that helps the body's immune system. And now hundreds of doctors across the United States and other countries are using the Richardson method to help people allow their immune system to help them reverse the C word.
Okay. So essentially it's like a supplement, it would be deemed like a supplement category, right? Because it's not
Yes.
FDA approved because, that's the FDA, and it's considered basically a nutritional supplement, right? That
Yes.
has a track record.
Yeah, it's found in over 1,200 different foods. I liken it to the vitamin C and scurvy.
Hmm.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of sailors. I think over a couple million of sailors died of scurvy, and they didn't know what was causing it. They didn't know if it was a bug, or they didn't even know about bugs back then. They didn't know what it was, but it happened to people that went on ships and were out to sea for months and months and months and didn't have any fresh fruit or vegetables, which have vitamin C in it. So these sailors were dying of this excruciating, horrible disease called scurvy that would actually bend their bones, make their teeth fall out. They would lose their hair, all because they weren't having vitamin C. When they finally discovered it, the elite knew about it for years, for hundreds of years. The elite, the powerful, knew about. All they had to do was suck on a lemon or eat oranges or have citrus, and they would never have the consequences of vitamin C. This is a disease that is the lack of something. It wasn't caused by some extrinsic thing. It was the lack of vitamin C that caused people to die of scurvy. I liken that exact same thing to the vitamin B17. Why, Matt? Why can I say that? Well, the Hunzas of northern Pakistan, if your audience wants to do a Google search, now I don't always trust Google, but if you want to do a Google search for CNBC Hunzas, CNBC Hunzas, and apricot seeds, or even CNBC Hunzas and living over 100 years, CNBC came out with an article in February of 2025, I believe, and said that the reason that the Hunzas of northern Pakistan have no cancer and live to be ripe old age of 140 years plus is because they eat so much apricot seeds. They said the 5 reasons is, number one, they eat so many apricots and apricot seeds. They have clean water, clean air. They have a very passionate societal gathering. They support each other, and they exercise regularly. You can pull it up. People can pull that article up, and don't even ask me. But this has been known for years. And so Ed Griffin, who was my dad's dear friend, who they went on a fishing trip together, and my dad was telling Ed all about G. Edward Griffin, who wrote the book Creature from Jekyll Island. He was telling Ed all about Laetrile and all about how he was having such success. And Ed was like, I just want to be fishing, John. I just want to relax. But Dad wouldn't stop telling about the story of Laetrile. And Dad got Ed to write the book World Without Cancer. And you can see it. There's Laetrile case histories, and World Without Cancer is back down here, my desk behind me, or it's back up here. It's the story of the science of Laetrile and how Ed looked into societies that had high amounts of nitrilicides, which are found in these seeds, the 1,200 different fruits and vegetables. Nitrilicides, societies that were high in foods that contain nitrilicides, also known as amygdalin or Laetrile, all the same thing. They lived long and they had low rates of cancer. So Ed proved also that we had this ongoing human study, because he said we've never found even a case in the United States of somebody that didn't have cancer, regularly ate apricot seeds, and then ended up dying of cancer. We couldn't find a single case of that anywhere. Now, there were people that had cancer, that had chemo, radiation, surgery, or on their deathbed and then tried to go natural. And then, like I said, didn't survive. They still had some good results, but they didn't survive. So this has been proven over time. And the final myth, which is not the final subject, the final myth that they used in the 70s and they're still using to this day is that you can get cyanide poisoning from apricot seeds or from amygdalin. This is simply not true. We've actually done a retrospective, a PhD, MD graduate of Stanford has done a deep dive into the truth about cyanide poisoning with apricot seeds and amygdalin, and found that there hasn't been a single death in the United States, a single documented death. There's been people that have been rushed to the emergency room because they have such an upset stomach, and it's all explainable, but it's literally impossible with the enzyme system the body has to get cyanide, to die of cyanide poisoning from eating apricot seeds. But that's the lie and the myth they continue to tell people, so people avoid eating apricot seeds when they should be doing it when they've developed the C word.
Yeah. No, they're going to say all kinds of fictional information to get people to not look at this type of substance. I mean, you could actually die from drinking too much water in one setting. People don't know that either, so of course they're going to make that kind of stuff up. It's been interesting too in this great awakening and learning about the medical establishment and some of the information they've been feeding us for years that we've believed and just and trusted in. But then I meet people like you, and along the way, people like Dr. Brian Ardis and some other people that have also talked about how the C word has sometimes been misdiagnosed. And in some cases, some of the tumors could even be egg sacs to parasites, which I think is very exactly. So
Brian
from
Ardis'
that
book.
period, yep, from that period, I mean, so much has been unpacked and gets people to really pay attention and ask more questions about, have some of these illnesses, diseases, and the C words, types of C words, have they been misdiagnosed, and because people, I think for a long time, naturally would eat certain foods or do certain things to rid themselves and their bodies of parasites. But now, from what we understand, it's in all different kinds of fish and pork products and things like that. So I'm just, with information you're sharing today, it's almost as if, these substances that's naturally God given in seeds could be something that in some cases could maybe kill off or kill these parasites in the body. Now, I'm not a doctor and I'm just guessing, but it seems like this is just getting the body to do what it's supposed to functionally do. Do you see any kind of correlation in some of the research and the things that you've learned about between the different types of
Ivermectin
seed? Yeah,
ivermectin and fenbendazole, yes.
yeah.
Ivermectin and fenbendazole are parasite killers. Cancer is not a parasite disease. However, when the body's immune system is lowered and is unable to fight against these cells that are improperly multiplying, then parasites will attack. Parasites
Mm.
are found in so many different foods now, like you said, sushi and all different foods. They've proven that parasites are in so many things, and pretty much everybody has parasites. You just have to be able to control them. God created amygdalin in these seeds and these 1,200 different foods because it's the original parasite killer. Someone that regularly eats amygdalin is not going to have these parasites. But ivermectin and fenbendazole have been proven, they're man-made drugs, but they've been proven to kill parasites. And if a person is not only kills the parasites with ivermectin, but then also changes their diet to eating a more natural diet like Gerson. If anybody out there has ever heard of the Gerson diet, it's all these foods and vegetables and foods that are containing high levels of B17. So you typically, if you look at someone that's doing the ivermectin, they're also changing their diet. They're going away from sugar. They're going away from gluten. They're going away from dairy products. They're going away from animal proteins. Now, I could give a training class about why each one of these things, especially animal proteins, I will never be a person to say eating animal proteins is bad for you. Here's what's happens, Matt, is that the same enzyme, I've talked about it, trypsin and chymotrypsin, that help you digest animal proteins are the same enzymes that eat the slimy, negatively charged outside coating of tumor cells. This is what the cancer does to protect itself from your body's immune system. And if your body's pancreas is not producing these pancreatic enzymes in enough levels to eat that outer coating, then all the nutrients like the B17 and B15 and vitamin C, all the nutrients that would naturally control the cancer are unable to get to it. So you asked me about ivermectin, and just today, just this morning, someone sent me a study, and I'm going to read it to you, Matt, because I could share, I could probably text it to you, and if you can add it into the show notes. The
I will.
largest human ivermectin cancer study ever done found 84.4% of patients declared their cancer had completely disappeared, shrunk, or stopped progressing after 6 months. Think about that. That's a study
Wow.
that just came out. It's a new study now show ivermectin, a Nobel Prize winning drug, has shown this control. Why? Because it kills the parasites. It interrupts the function of the cancer that lets it multiply, just like amygdalin does. So my dad always predicted this. They'd have a man-made drug that they would kind of mimic the same function of amygdalin, and that would be found as being the end all, the be all. The difference is with amygdalin, you don't have the liver concerns of overloading the liver. So I'm not an anti ivermectin guy in any way, shape, or form. I think it's an additional tool in the tool belt. And I just tell people you should be doing both. Dr. Makis in Canada has been having great success with ivermectin and fenbendazole, but he also gives his patients B17. He doesn't
Right.
announce it out there. Why? Because it's got such a negative connotation so many times that doctors that are using it don't really announce it to their patients. I've just recently had a doctor sitting across from a person that was working with us to help us raise funds for our documentary. And she was talking about the Richardson method, how excited she was about doing this documentary. And the doctor said, "Are you talking about the Dr. John Richardson protocol?" She was an MD. She said, "Yeah, I am." She goes, "I got cancer. I got the C word, sorry. And I researched and found about the Dr. Richardson protocol. I did it on myself. I used it on myself, and I controlled my own C word. Now I'm secretly treating hundreds of patients in my medical practice for the C word using the Richardson method. I'm just keeping it underground secretly." This just happened, Matt, at a dinner party like a week ago. So we're
Wow.
seeing this breakthrough, and we've got literally now hundreds of doctors across the country. I'm going to be speaking to over 500 medical practitioners in Missouri with Dr. Brian Artis at the in Branson, Missouri, in November at the the Healthcare Secrets. It's called Hidden Healthcare Secrets or something like that. And I could probably give you more information about that. Anyway, I'm going to be speaking
I'd
with
love to
Dr.
go. If you could
Yes,
bring me,
yeah,
I'd love to be
yeah,
there.
yeah. That'd be fantastic. But here's the key. We're going to be announcing there a training program put together by this PhD MD doctor, training doctors about the Richardson method that is working all over the place. And we want to give the information about the ivermectin, about fenbendazole, about Laetrile, B15, ozone, red light therapy, all the natural treatments that are allowing the body's immune system not to cure anything, but allows the body's immune system to control the C word so that people can have a long, healthy life. And hopefully we can live into 100 years plus if we can get rid of all of these horrible things we're eating and these horrible chemicals where people are injecting in us, and live a more natural life based on Genesis 1:29, 1:11 and 1:29. Ye shall have the seed for thy food.
Yeah, no, and it's beautiful, and we definitely want to pray into that. And I mean, people in the Bible live to be, a couple hundred years old, and that would always kind of like baffle me. Like when I would read it, I would say, how would somebody be able to live that long? And then I thought, well, if you weren't constantly being poisoned, over radiated, standing, cooking a microwave burrito, doing these things that humans are doing every single day that is slow killing them. Of course, God would give you a longer lifespan. But one concern that I have, and I just want to be really honest with you and honest with my with my audience here is I've fallen a little concerned with our current administration because I think the guys like you and your team, Dr. Brian Artist, Dr. Judy Mikovits, all these Stella Manuel, all these amazing physicians out there that are playing their part to treat these certain diseases and certain things that have been brought upon humanity, but who is out there really playing offense to even push against the certain things that are causing these ailments, right? And so I was having a conversation with somebody recently who brought to my attention that, and because life gets busy, sometimes President Trump will sign an executive order that flies right past me, and I don't hear about it until days or weeks later. But in February of 2026, February 18th, 2026, President Trump signed Executive Order 14387. Basically, it's an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act. This declared glyphosate production critical to state national defense and provided legal immunity under Section 707 of that act to domestic producers complying with the order. Essentially, it was some kind of partial immunity for companies that are using glyphosate pesticides within their products, and they're calling it a type of national defense. And and the patriot in me is thinking, okay, well, great, we should be protecting America's farmers and America's food supply and not relying on other nations. We learned a lot about that during the COVID years and the supply chain and other nations constraining our food supplies. But the other side of me is thinking, well, why are companies like Bayer, Monsanto, some of the biggest food suppliers in our country today supporting this executive order? And I even have, statements from Robert Kennedy after this executive order was signed saying that he supported this. So do you know much about this?
Yeah, I know a lot
what does
about
your
it.
gut tell you?
Let me just tell you, people won't have time for me to tell the whole story, but Ronald Reagan had his colon cancer controlled by Laetrile in 1985, and in 1986 he was forced, arm twisted, to sign the the vaccine law in 1986 that's allowed them to produce 75 vaccines with no financial liability. So not only did he support Laetrile, the treatment of the C word, but then they used that. They kept it secret. Nobody knew about it. I have all the documentation. No one probably can believe me, but I have all the documentation. But the next year he signed this law into effect. The amount of pressure and money that comes from these evil cabals is beyond belief. I'm not sticking up for President Trump for signing this agreement, but I've talked to farmers that say that the farming system would collapse if they didn't have this weed killer, and they believe that. They said their margins are so low, they're competing with foreign countries, so they believe that they didn't have this weed killer. But Monsanto was having so many lawsuits for people with cancer and farmers that getting just riddled with cancer, that they said if they continue to produce it, they would go out of business. Monsanto basically went bankrupt, and Bayer purchased Monsanto and then was trying to settle billions of dollars worth of lawsuits. And this is how they arm twisted Trump to say, maybe we want to get rid of Monsanto, but in the meantime, it would collapse the farmers. So that's the explanation. But the truth is, Matt, that's all BS, because until we as consumers stop buying food that's produced with glyphosate, we are going to keep supporting that system, and we're going to keep dying. So the fact of the matter is that when I see these laws signed in effect, it's not going to affect me, Matt, and it shouldn't affect you or anybody in our audience, because if you're not switching to eating organic food that's not raised on a factory farm, or you're eating GMO, modified GMO foods like seedless apples and seedless grapes and seedless watermelon. If you're still eating these things, then you are inundating your immune system with poisons, cancer increasing poisons. Now, I don't say cancer causing, because remember, cancer is a metabolic deficiency disease. If you give your body all the nutrition it needs, it doesn't matter what they do out there in the world, you're going to be able to fight it off. Now, at a certain point, you can't dip your liver in glyphosate and think it's not going to damage it. So the answer to the question is yes, they're making mistakes at the top, but if you protect yourself and you are taking daily nutrition that helps your body fight off these things, you can still be okay. And here's the other part that's exciting, Matt, is that I would say 80% of the population, especially in the United States and more or less in other countries, 80% of the population now realizes the food is not good for us. They realize there's poisons in our snack foods. There's poisons in our food at the grocery stores. And so people are actually with their dollars buying and supporting organic foods and organic stores and grocery stores that are selling organic things. So you have to be diligent on your own behalf. You have to be your biggest defender of your health and not worry about what these laws they're signing at the top. Because guess what, Matt? I'm not going to eat foods that are produced at factory farms. I'm going to eat organic eggs. I had 4 organic eggs this morning. I'm going to get them naturally, and I'm going to eat. That's what I'm going to eat, not eggs that I get at Safeway that are $3 cheaper a dozen, but produced at a factory farm where the hens never even, they're injected with a whole bunch of hormones. Just like
Right.
factory raised chicken. Is bad. You need to eat organic, or you need to eat. You need to go to your farmer's market, or you need to grow your own food if you want to be healthy, or you need to supplement. If you can eat all the right foods, you don't need to supplement as much, because if you eat God's foods, like I said, there's 1,200 different foods that have B17 and other nutrients in it. You don't have to worry about it. So that's my answer. I'm also very involved with the MAHA movement, and I hear people being against RFK and this and that. That's infighting that is created by the devil, created by the evil one, because RFK is doing a lot of good things, and he's doing some things we can't understand, but he's a lot better than anything we would have had there before. I meet weekly for about an hour and a half with the MAHA Media Action Pack. So I get to hear the real stories about what's changing and what's going on, and the losses and the wins. And we're having far more wins than we are losses right now. So again, if they tomorrow said, I got to start eating, kittens, if I want to survive, that's obviously a tongue in cheek. I have to start eating kittens, and the government says, if you don't eat kittens, you're not going to be able to buy groceries. Doesn't matter what they say. I'll find a way around it. So cooperation with what they sign, or getting in line to do what they tell you to do when it's time to inject or do these things, that's what makes the difference. You cannot comply. You must not comply to these barbaric rulings or presidential orders or any of that stuff, or eat these foods that are produced in barbaric ways. You must do what's best for you and be your best defender.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree anymore. And I would love to be able to send people to your company, your website. I mean, since I met you, I have been snacking on the actual apricot seeds themselves. Yeah, folks are a little bitter, but you get past it. Honestly, when you understand the education and what's inside of these things, literally you can just pop a few and you're on with the rest of your day. Not a big deal. Swig some water with it. But let me bring up my screen here. And then I want to show people how to find you guys online. And so have you maybe share with us some of the products that you guys have available to folks here. Let me share screen. Let's see. Okay, so looks like people can find the website here at rncstore.com.
Yep.
And there's obviously the B17 apricot seed extract. These look like capsules, and there's all different types of products too. You guys do much more than just the capsules, right?
Yeah. So this is one of our top selling products, the purified amygdalin B17, 100 milligrams. That my dad said, and Ed Griffin said, and other doctors have said, you want between 100 or 200 milligrams a day in your diet to allow you to what your body needs to fight it off. You also want the enzymes and the B15. So I always people say, what do you recommend, John? I tell people to get the bundle, either the prevention bundle or the pro bundle. and get it on a subscription so you can set it and forget it. It's about a 90-day supply if you're just doing one capsule a day, because there's 100 capsules in the bottles. So sometimes you can take a couple capsules, or if you're doing 2 capsules of each a day, it's about a 45-day supply. Either way, it's unbelievably great for your health. And we've seen thousands and thousands of stories of people this supporting their immune system in a way that it helps their body reverse lots of things. We just had a story this morning we have a morning huddle prayer call. One of the staff said they had a hamster that was having problems and leaning over, and it looked like it was going to die. And so he put B17 into the hamster's water and had it eating it. And overnight, the hamster got better and started feeling better. So we have stories after stories after stories, Matt. It's great for pets. It's great for everything. But the pro bundle or the prevention bundle is what I tell people is one of the easiest, best ways to get in your diet. If you can't afford it, or you just want to go the absolute natural route, the seeds are a great option. And we have everything from a 1 month supply. We call it the daily, the apricot seed daily. It's like $13 on, and almost $10 on subscription. You get it every month, and that allows you to eat 5 apricot seeds a day. And you can go all the way up to our 2-pound bag, which is the most economical. And that's another great way. I used to eat 40 apricot seeds a day myself, but I had some colon issues, not related to the apricot seeds, related to other issues, and I switched to taking the 500 milligrams daily. So I use the Pro Bundle, which is what we recommend for people that are actually fighting something. We can't say what, fighting something, and you can take a higher level of the B17, maybe 4 of the 500 capsules, and the enzymes, maybe 4 to 6 of the enzymes a day, and 2 of the B15 a day, which makes it kind of like a 30-day supply on the Pro Bundle. So those are the different levels you can do. We even offer it IV B17, is what my dad uses in his clinic. And we have a special section where you can fill out a form. We help you find a practitioner that does it. Again, repeating that we're not treating a disease or injecting somebody with a drug. We are using a nutritional supplement and allowing their immune system to fight off whatever it is they have. So we offer all sorts of versions, capsules, seeds, seed meal, and injectable vitamin B17. And finally, Matt, I wanted to say, for anybody looking for more information, we have a website where we can send people to called b17works.com. You can if you're fighting something and you want to do something adjunctively with what you're already doing, you can fill out a little form, and our team member, a 50-year cancer thriver named Rick Hill, who was sent home to die in the 1970s at 23 years old, is still alive today. He's 74. You can do the B17 Works program, and Rick will reach out to you and give you a free consultation and tell you what he did. He's not giving medical advice. Again, he's just telling you what he did, and then can direct you to doctors that are practicing the Richardson method or clinics and things like that. So we have all different levels of support for people, and we're trying to get this message out there. And we do really want people to use the affiliate code that you have called Ultra MK. So you can just type in rncstore.com/Ultra MK. That not only gives you a discount, but it helps us track where people are coming from, so we can help support those that are helping us get the message out here. Because if we go on Google and do this, or even YouTube, they censor it. And hopefully this message that you're putting on YouTube is not going to be censored. Hopefully I've repeated to everybody that we are not doctors. We're not giving medical advice. You need to listen to your doctor. We're not trying to tell you to do any different choice. We're just giving you an option, an adjunctive option, natural option that we've seen work in many, many cases, that people can do alongside whatever their doctor is doing. And we recommend people get their doctor trained as well. Get their doctor to know about this, so they don't believe the lies that we've all been told for the last 50 years about natural treatment of the C word.
Absolutely. And I encourage all my loyal listeners and viewers of the Ultra MK podcast to please support this organization, Operation World Without Cancer, and visit the rncstore.com to check out their products, but also their mission, their vision, the amazing story about Dr. John Richardson, John Jr.'s father. Share it far and wide. I mean, we all know somebody who has been affected by these situations. I've personally lost very close relatives of mine in years past, and I wish I could have shared this information back then, but I didn't know about it. And so don't let it stop with you. Send it out to people, share it, and we want it to bless as many people as we can in this endeavor to help people awaken to all of God's creation and food and things that are available that He's had on this planet for a long, long time. So, John, I really appreciate you coming on to my show for the first time. I hope I can bring you back often and catch up and talk about different topics and things that are affecting us and also some of the wins God's blessed us with in this pursuit. So, I'd love to have you back. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to add for those skeptics out there, we've also put together some list of more recent studies on B17, and there's a study on the NIH that's right there that you can click on and find it, and it's titled "Amygdalin Causes Apoptosis in Cancer Cells." Another study, amygdalin blocks the in vitro adhesion and invasion of renal cell carcinoma cells by an integrin-dependent mechanism. So we have studies. People always go, if this is true, why isn't there studies? The NIH itself has these studies, and that doesn't even count the years of studies and documented historical cases over the years that have been successfully had their C word controlled by using metabolic therapy. So I just want to let people know this isn't some conspiracy. This isn't something I made up in my backyard that's secret. It's God-given information we've had thousands and thousands of success stories in both animals and humans, probably approaching hundreds of thousands. And people just need to not believe the narrative and dive in enough and find out about it to know the truth.
Awesome. And I love to run into you or visit any of the events that you are going to in the country. And folks, if you want to learn more about things that are happening, please, once again, visit these websites. We'll make sure we put them in the drop down below so you can click on some of the hyperlinks and really dig into this information and support the RNC group, RNC Richardson Nutrition Center. And I hope it blesses you and your family. So, John, I wish you the best, and I can't wait to see you in person again.
Thank you, Matt. Looking forward to it.
All
God
right.
bless.
Thanks for
All
coming
right.
on. God bless
All
you
right.
too.
All right.
We'll
Bye-bye.
talk soon.